Hello students, welcome back to Prudence Coaching English class. Here we provide ICSE, CBSE and WBSE solutions. Today we are going to discuss about the poem My Shadow by Robert Louis Stevenson. We'll provide you line-to-line explanation both in Hindi and English. Along with, we'll provide you the word notes and the stanza-wise summary to understand each of the stanzas and the lines better. So let's start it. Here is the first answer. I have a little shadow that goes in and out with me, and what can be the use of him is more than I can see. So, in these beginning lines, the speaker, who is a little boy, is saying that his shadow goes inside and outside with him, and the uses of his shadow is known better to him than anyone else. He is very, very like me from the heels up to the head. The shadow resembles him completely from his heels to head, and I see him jump before me when I jump into my bed. The speaker finds that his shadow jumps onto the bed whenever he likes to jump on the bed. सो अब हम हिंदी में एक्सप्लेन करेंगे. आई हैव अ लिटिल शैडो दैट गोज इन एंड आउट विथ मी. मेरा एक छोटा साया है और छाया है जो मेरे साथ बाहर और अंदर जाता है. एंड व्हाट कैन बी द यूज़ ऑफ हिम इज़ मोर देन आई कैन सी. उसका जो यूज़ है वो मुझे ही सबसे अच्छा पता है. ही इज़ वेरी वेरी लाइक मी फ्रॉम द हिल्स अप टू द हेड. वो छाया पूरा मेरे जैसा दिखता है मेरे पैर से सिर तक. एंड आई सी हिम जम्प बिफोर मी व्हेन आई जम्प इनटू माय बेड. मैं जब भी मेरे बिस्तर के ऊपर लेटना चाहते हो वो छाया मुझसे पहले बिस्तर में चला जाता है. Now here is the word notes which will help you to understand the stanza better. Shadow means saya. From heels up to the head means एरी से सिर तक. Very like me means मेरे जैसा दिखता है. Jump before me means मेरे सामने कूदा. Now I'll move to the second stanza. So before understanding this stanza, I will tell you to learn these words to understand this stanza better. Funniest thing means सबसे मज़ेदार बात. Likes to grow means बढ़ना पसंद है. Shoots up taller like India rubber ball means कभी कभी भारत रबर की गेंद की तरह लंबा हो जाता है. Now we'll read and explain both in Hindi and English for this stanza. The funniest thing about him is the way he likes to grow, not at all like proper children, which is always very slow. Now here the speaker says that the funniest thing about the shadow is that the shadow likes to grow but in an unnatural way. His growth is not like the proper children, or his growth is not similar to that of the children who grows at a normal rate. For he sometimes shoot up taller like an India rubber ball, and he sometimes gets so little that there is none of him at all. So sometimes the shadow grows up very tall like the length of an India rubber ball, and sometimes it grows so little that it's impossible to recognize. Now I will explain in Hindi. The funniest thing about him is the way he likes to grow. Not at all like proper children, which is always very slow. So the speaker says that the funniest thing. Oh, so यहाँ पर जो कथन है ये बता रहा है कि सबसे मज़ेदार बात वो छाया के बारे में ये है कि वो छाया बढ़ना पसंद करता है, बट उसका जो ग्रोथ है वो नॉर्मल चिल्ड्रन की तरह नहीं है. उसका ग्रोथ नॉर्मल चिल्ड्रन से पूरा अलग है. नॉर्मल चिल्ड्रन का ग्रोथ बहुत धीमा है और वो छाया का ग्रोथ बहुत जल्दी है. For he sometimes shoot up taller like an India rubber ball, and he sometimes gets so little that there is none of him at all. कभी कभी वो छाया बहुत लंबा हो जाता है इंडिया रबर गेंद की तरह, और कभी कभी वो इतना छोटा हो जाता है कि उसको पहचानना नामुमकिन हो जाता है. Now I have already explained these word notes. Now I will explain the next stanza. But before this, I will suggest to go through these word notes. Notion means धारणा. Children ought to play means बच्चों को जैसे खेलना चाहिए. Every sort of way means हर तरह से. Coward means डरपोक and nurse means nurse. Now let's explain the stanza. He hasn't got a notion of how children ought to play and can only make a fool of me in every sort of way. So the shadow does not know how the children used to play, and it always tries to befool the speaker in every way. He stays so close beside me, he is a coward, you can see. I would think same to stick to Norsi as that shadow sticks to me. The speaker says that the shadow always sticks to the speaker or always stays nearby to the speaker, and that's why he called it a coward. Here, the speaker also added that he would rather feel ashamed of stay connected to a nurse forever as that of the shadow sticks to him forever. So यहाँ पर हम अब हिंदी में बोलेंगे. He hasn't got a notion of how children ought to play and can only make a fool of me in every sort of way. सो यहाँ पर स्पीकर ये बोल रहा है कि वो शैडो और छाया को ये पता नहीं है कि चिल्ड्रन कैसे खेलता है, और वो हर तरह से स्पीकर को बुद्धू बनाने की कोशिश करता है. ही स्टेज सो क्लोज बिसाइड मी, ही इज़ अ कावर्ड, यू कैन सी. वो मेरे साथ हमेशा चिपक के रहता है, इसलिए ही स्पीकर उसको डरपोक कहा है. आई वुड थिंक सेम टू स्टिक टू नर्सी एज दैट शैडो स्टिक्स टू मी. मुझे शर्म आती है एक नर्स के साथ हमेशा रहने के लिए, लेकिन ये शैडो मेरे साथ हमेशा चिपक के रहता है और इसको शर्म भी नहीं आता है. Now I will explain the concluding stanza. That is, one morning very early before the sun was up, I rose and found the shining dew on every buttercup, but my lazy shadow, little shadow, like an errant sleepyhead, had stayed at home behind me and was fast asleep in bed. Now for the first two lines. In the early morning, one day, when the speaker was awakened, he goes out and found the shining dewdrops on the buttercup flowers. Now, the last two lines. But he could not find his shadow at that time. He finds that, or he thought that perhaps his shadow was feeling too much sleepy, and for that cause the shadow had stayed at home and had fallen asleep on the bed. But here actually the fact is that in the morning we cannot find our shadow as the sun comes in front of us, or we can find the sun rays from the front side of us. Now I will tell you the explanation in Hindi. One morning very early before the sun was up, I rose and found the shining dew on every buttercup. एक सुबह बहुत जल्दी मैं जब उठा था, सूरज की उगने से भी पहले मैं देखा कि ओस की जो ड्यू ड्रॉप्स और ओस की जो धारा है वो बटरकप फ्लावर के ऊपर देखा गया. वो बहुत चमकीला था. बट माई लेजी लिटिल शैडो लाइक एन errant स्लीपी हेड हैड स्टेड एट होम बिहाइंड मी एंड वॉज फास्ट एस्लीप इन बेड. बट मेरा जो छाया था वो बहुत ही नींद में था, इसलिए वो घर पर ही रह गया था और बिस्तर पे लेटे हुए नींद में चला गया. Now I have explained all this meaning. You can find this word meaning here. Shining dew means chamakdar oss. Buttercup means पीला प्याला सा बिलायती फूल और पीत पुष्प. This is butterfly. This is buttercup flower. Lazy means आलसी. Like an errant sleepy head means एक सोने वाले शेर की तरह. Now I'll move to the summary. This is the summary of the first stanza. In the first stanza, we find a little boy who is giving the descriptions about his own shadow. When he goes out, his shadow follows him. He also notices the resemblance between the shadow and himself. He finds that sometimes when he jumps into his bed, the shadow gets in before he can. Now the next stanza. The speaker observes that the size of the shadow varies. It is not like the normal kids who grow at a normal rate. It seems to the boy that sometimes the shadow grows at a very tall and sometimes become too short to recognize even. Now the third stanza, the little boy forever finds the shadow nearby to him. The boy thinks that the shadow is perhaps a coward who always sticks to him like the nurses to a little children. His shadow stays behind and always follows him. Now the last stanza, he gets up early in the morning one day before sunrise. The morning is beautiful and dewy, and he can see the dewdrops on every leaf of the buttercup flower. He assumes that the shadow is so lazy that it did not get up in the morning and is still sleeping in bed. So students, finally we have explained this entire poem. If you find it helpful, then don't forget to like it. Okay, goodbye everyone. Have a nice day.